Hey guys, hello and welcome. And I'm not sure if you can see, I don't think you can see, but I have my cat with me for this tag because she decided to join me. Oh, look, cat tail. So we're gonna attempt to film a VR to Don Michel Boho Tarots. It Takes a Village 2022. Oh my god, for a second I forgot that the year. How could I, right? I will obviously link her original video down in the description. The video was was published, or it's out for a while now, but I didn't have time to catch up on it. And I kind of assumed that I want to do a VR, so I was just saving it until I could come up with my own list. So that's why I watched it recently, and now I'm filming a VR with a cat, which is kind of harder than you might think. So because I keep getting distracted by a cat. So yeah, I will put down the prompts in the description, I hope. But there's 9 category that I came up with. I think I omitted a few, maybe 1 or 2, and I added 1 to the original list. So definitely do check out Don Michel's video, which is really cool and really inspiring, because I always love videos that makes me look at my decks and how I use them in a different way than just, oh, I'm using this deck, because it's useful. So first category is the guide, and I've kind of merged the guide with the mystic, and I forgot what the other description was, priestess maybe, for the original one, because when I do a reading, and this is about decks that I use for personal readings, and when I do a reading, it's usually 99% of the time is spiritual work. I only did a few work-related ones, but even those were connected to my purpose and how to move forward, which path to take to move forward aligned with my purpose, I guess. That's what I'm trying to figure out ever since I started using tarot. So I kind of merged the two, and the deck that I pretty much exclusively use for personal type of readings ever since I got it is the pocket edition of the Wild Unknown, which is a very, very surprising deck for me, because this was the one that I obviously looked at for a long while, because everybody and their mother has it. But I looked at the artwork, and even though I like cards like the star, like, look at that pretty star, I wasn't drawn to the illustration style. For example, something like this is not something that I care for as illustration style wise, but this deck has I had the opportunity to look at it in person, and I immediately felt that there was a connection, but I didn't think how deep the connection it would be. And I don't personify the decks, it's just that this deck allows me to see messages on a more layered, more in-depth way than I had the option or chance to with other decks. So I don't think that sentence made any sense, but hopefully you understood what I meant to say. So yeah, it was an instant connection even before I got my own copy, and I don't know why there are certain cards upside down, because I don't read reversals, but I can shuffle. So yeah, there's the explanation. So for the guide, I definitely chose the Wild Unknown. I'm quite curious if it's gonna change for the new year, because this deck just works so well for me. I always feel like that I'm getting my answers close from the source when I'm doing a reading with it. So, and I understand what the cards mean, even if not immediately. It just takes a little read through the guidebook to get the message. because you know there are some decks that makes you work for it, which is not a bad thing. The second one was the Caregiver. I tried to come up with a different name because I kind of associate caregivers to you know, hospitals and end of life care. I don't know why the word for me has that association, so I kind of wanted to find a different one, but I couldn't really. So I left it there because these are the supporting ones. You know, the deck that supported me the most throughout, especially the beginning of the year, and that is the StarDragon Oracle. I was thinking about adding the Affirmation Tarot to the mix as well, but the Affirmation Tarot was different. I used it when I didn't, you know, couldn't handle too deep of a reading. There was a time, obviously, but this deck was the textbook version of support for me in a deck. And I was surprised by it. I started pulling one out just to do something, I think. Can't really remember why I did it anymore. My cat. My support animal, right? Kind of. But it was just so much deeper and straightforward, but firm and supportive. You know, it wasn't a gentle one in a way that, oh, it didn't tell me that everything is gonna be fine and, you know, all my problems are gonna magically disappear. It's not a deck about that. It just gives you exactly what you need to deal with that day. I mean, for me, because I did daily pulls with it, it gave me messages that I was able to handle on that day, or shift my focus to something that I was able to work on. And the cat is gone that day. So it kind of broke down the big message, I think, into tiny pieces that I was manageable, that those were manageable, and I was able to manage. And yeah, I'm changing sentences in the middle of saying them. That's why it sounds even more awkward than usual. Oops, and that's my decoration in the box. So yeah, my support or caregiver deck is definitely the StarDragon's Oracle. I don't think I would have managed the first few months, especially January, without this deck as well as I ended up doing it. It was still a horrible, you know, experience, and it was still hard, but it definitely helped a lot. Next one is the Muse, and I was thinking about if I should keep this or not, because I don't really use decks to work with as a creative process. I don't pull cards to do creative work. I usually just, so my inspiration comes from other sources, and that's when I realized that, oh, but my inspiration comes from decks for the ones that I created. And I don't have an original RWS deck right now, and I have no idea where the other deck is because it's in the box. So please excuse me when I'm gonna show you the one that came off or came about because of the inspiration of the original RWS, and that's the Galaxy Tarot, because I was definitely inspired by that deck, inspired to create something new. So I think it's, you know, it's a fusion, because this is the end product of the original one that inspired me. But I think, yeah, but like I said, like I don't have an original one. But without the original one, I never would have worked on this one. I never would have created a deck. Even though I love galaxies and I love painting them, that's the thing, pretty much the majority of the time when I paint, and just for myself, I paint galaxies because I just love them. But the original deck and the fact that I didn't like the colors, but I liked the illustration, inspired me to, you know, create a new deck. So this one is definitely going to be a different for next year because I'm working on other decks. But Usually it's the lack of something that inspires me. So I can't really pull out a deck to show you that, oh, I didn't have a zombie oracle, so hence I created one. Because, you know, how to show something that's not there. But with this one, I definitely had an original inspiring deck. And even though I don't have that deck, the images are so well known that, you know, everybody knows. So I think I can cheat with showing the end result. So yeah, Galaxy Tarot for the Muse. Next one is the Elder, and this is advice coming from ancestor work. I don't do a lot of ancestor work, but I started to dab into the realm this year, so this is something that's definitely new to me. I'm taking baby steps, and the deck that is exclusively used for this kind of work, and this is the deck that I don't read for for other people. I read with everything else. I don't keep decks just for myself, but this one is special because maybe because the first reading that I ever did with it was an ancestral reading, and it worked. I definitely felt that it was different, but the Raven's Prophecy is my dedicated ancestor work deck, even though I don't have Celtic ancestry, so it's not that, but I think I connected with how the books were written, and I see that you know, timeline, not even timeline, connection between times that happened in the books. I see that ever-flowing time in this deck. I don't know how else to say it, but and I trimmed mine. I kept the titles because I wasn't sure that, you know, if I look at it, I would know that this is the King of Wands, and I really like the font, to be honest. Originally, I wanted to keep all the orange borders because it reminds me of the pig, the car in the books, but it was too distracting. When I laid down the cards, I couldn't see the cards. All I saw was orange border, so I wanted to remove. But since then I've seen now Michelle completely trimming this deck, and I'm so tempted to actually give it a go. And I don't know if I don't know if I want to get another one, because I don't like to have double copies of decks, unless they are retro black. But I really like the edging work that I did on this deck, because it was by accident some gold speckles added on the black. So I'm kind of, you know, I know how, I'm guessing I could replicate the effect, but what if I can't? And what if the black one that I used is gonna be different and it's not gonna be the same? So I'm kind of, the edging job that I did, which I really like, and I think I'm very pleased with it, is keeping me from completely trimming it currently. So I might get another copy at some point, or I will just bite the bullet and do this, because I mean, it looks so nicely, and I think I just don't have confidence in myself enough because I have so many decks that I would remember that certain cards are certain cards, like for example 9 of Coins. But I mean, if I do a study, and I plan on doing a study next year, then after that I should be able to just tell. And certain cards I already know, like the Devil, because I know what this mask is in the books, and it makes so much sense. It makes sense using a mask for the Devil, even if you don't know about the books, but knowing that mask in the book and what it did and how it appeared, on why it was significant, it's just an added layer. So yeah, I love this 7 of Wands. So yeah, I don't know, I think I just need to be brave. But I made this really cool, and I'm really pleased with myself how I made this tiny pouch. So do I wanna, you know, like ruin it in a way because it fits this deck perfectly, and if I trim it, it's not gonna fit? And then I need to make another one, and then this is gonna be useless. So I don't know. Please give me an advice. So what do you think? Should I trim it? Should I keep it? Should I get another one? Maybe I should get another one. I don't know. I don't know. Give me advice. Yeah, so that was the other, which I could have pulled the card, you know, to ask about the trimming, but I already put it back, so whatever. Another one, the next one is a one that I came up with, and this is the Gatekeeper. And this might sound like a negative one, but it's not, because I was just thinking that, and I'm gonna tell you, this is the wild wood tarot that I have standing in the gate. Oh, look at it with the shaman as a gatekeeper. And what I mean by the gatekeeper, and it might hopefully changes next year, because we're planning on doing a study on this deck throughout the year with Richie. So I should be, you know, familiar with it by the end of next year, hopefully, or another one. Is gatekeeping for a good reason, because I wasn't ready for this deck when I got it. This was my second ever bought tarot deck. I bought the Lysirs and this one because I was like, oh, you know, shamans and everything, and I really like that. And I still do like the artwork, but this is a deep deck, and I never felt like I should just rush through it and start using it and be like, oh, this is, you know, like judgment, and I'm gonna use it as the judgment card and not as the Great Bear, and ignoring the whole system that this deck has, because I always felt like I have to give respect to this deck by actually studying it before I start to use it. And even though I started studying, I didn't really have time to look more into the deck since pretty much the end of summer. So it's not a teacher deck yet, it's a gatekeeper, because it's keeping me, you know, it's standing in at the beginning of the forest, because I'm not ready to walk into the forest and experience what's there, because messages would miss me, I would become lazy, and I would miss out on the deck and you know, I have this whole thing made up in my head about this deck. Maybe the pedestal that I put it on is too high. I don't think so, but hopefully it's not keeping me you know, like away from the deck forever, and I'm really annoyed with myself because it was, you know, in order, and it's out of order now, so whatever. But so this is a gatekeeper deck, because it's not allowing me to just waltz around and be like, oh, I can read with any deck. No, it's gonna make me work very hard for the knowledge, but I know that as soon as I'm done with it, it's gonna be an essential part of my collection. I do have that instinctive feeling that this is going to be a foundational deck for me, even though I never really read with it yet. But I feel that connection with the illustration, with what this deck is all about. Oh, look at that protection! The protection. So it's protecting me from, I guess, ruining the connection by being impatient with it. So this is the gatekeeper. Oops, that's a bag. And yes, I'm recording, so good thing. Next one is the teacher. And the teacher is a deck that I used to study this year, and I didn't really had as much time as I wanted to. I wanted to read a lot more guidebooks, and I wanted to do deck studies a lot more, but hey, this year was an interesting one, if I want to be diplomatic. But the one that I actually had time to, and I was really lucky because I managed to, by complete chance, the universe sent me a first edition of the Game of Thrones tarot. So this is the linen version, and I used it for the House of the Dragon series readings, and that gave me a chance to study the deck, you know, study what a deck that is connected to something that I like, a popular, you know, like TV show or whatever is connected to, how that adds to a reading for me. So I was able to study that process because of this deck, and I really love how it showed up for those readings, because for the obvious connection, but as well how easy it was to see what the deck wanted to say about the characters. And I still haven't had time to do the review of those readings, which I'm planning on. But look at that, the Empress, which was the princess in this one. So yeah, I had time to not necessarily study the deck itself, which I did as well, but the more important was for me to study or to learn about how a deck that has connection to something else works for me. And I'm happy to report that it's an added layer, and I really like how this deck works for me, and I really do love the cardstock. I don't know how the new one, you know, shuffles, but this linen type of cardstock, which is similar to MPC's linen cardstock, but a bit thicker, because I have the Questions Oracle, which is linen, and that is the exact same finish, but it's a bit thinner. So this is a very good cardstock. So yeah, for the teacher, I have the Game of Thrones. You know, I had to have some dragons at some point, you know me. I mean, you should know that about me. Or if you don't, then please like, subscribe. And there's only two others that I have. One of them is The Outsider, and The Outsider is the one that is part of my village, but it's not necessarily something that I was thinking about allowing into, you know, in between my walls, so to speak. And that is the Horror Tarot. And even though I really like the art style, and I knew that I liked the artist, because the Darkwood is one of my favorite decks if I just think about the illustration. But I'm not a horror, oh god, that's a very hard word to say. Not a horror, because now I'm thinking about a different word that rhymes with this. And Belisarian when she says those two things. So I'm not a horror type of person. I like psychothrillers, I like psychological thrillers. I don't like the gore, the getting scared, and nothing like that. Horror is not my thing. I don't like it. I will never watch a horror movie if I can, you know, choose to not watch it. And so when I saw that this deck came out, I was mildly interested for a second because of the artist, who is Sasha Graham. Am I saying something ridiculous? Oh God. Like, I was so confident for a second, and then the confidence was gone. Of course not. Sasha Graham made the deck. Okay, I'm really sorry, Abigail Larson. I apologize. Abigail Larson. I didn't mean to be, you know, disrespectful. I'm just bad with names. But I really like her art style. And so, like I said, I was, for a second, I was like, ooh, another deck with the same, you know, type of illustration. But then I was like, horror, tarot, I don't want horror. Like, blood and whatever. I don't need that. And I got this deck. I know it's kind of morbid, but when my grandmother died, it was on sale. And for some reason, I was like, you know what? That's exactly what I need now. I can't explain it. It wasn't anything like, oh, I'm doom and gloom and she died and now I'm like getting a deck because like for some messed up reason. It wasn't like that. I was just really wanted to get something, and that was there. And you know, I don't believe in getting decks by accident. It doesn't, I don't believe in that. Hello, clown, for the sun. And I can't explain it, but I'm absolutely not bothered by. I'm not even slightly frightened, and you know, I wasn't thinking about getting like being afraid of using this deck. I was just thinking about it that I wouldn't connect because this is horror, and you know, like, oh, I'm not gonna read with it because I don't care for that. But it just works. it works so well. Like I don't even mind that there are like disgusting hands like this, because for the Ace of Pentacles in this text, it's perfect. So this is the outsider, because normally I would never get a deck that's called horror, you know, like a horror tarot. And I know you could be like, you created the zombie oracle, what the hell are you talking about? But if you know my zombie oracle, it's a TV show version. These are not brain-eating creatures wandering around scaring people. It's the Walking Dead type of the previous early seasons kind of like deck. So I can be picky about horror because I didn't create a horror oracle, just saying. So yeah, I'm not contradicting myself there. I have plenty of other places where I do that. So yeah, that's the outsider. And the last one is the stranger, and that's a deck that is new, but I kind of feel like it's gonna be part of the village at some point. And I do feel like that about the mystical moments. I was eyeing this deck for a long while because I love the art style, but I was absolutely unsure about the size because I have tiny hands and this is a bigger than a normal tarot deck size. But I think it's because it's quite thin. It's not, like this big. I'm still able to use it. I'm able to overhand shuffle, which is my preferred method anyway. So I got it, and there are cards that I don't like there are some that I'm like but I really love the art style still, and I can't explain it, and but I really do feel a storybook kind of connection because I like Alice with it, and I think it's gonna be a very, very good reader for me. I don't know in which category is gonna be the one for next year, and maybe I'm wrong and we're never gonna be that close. I don't know, but I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing so far, and I'm definitely getting inspired because I love collage decks. But obviously I couldn't find one that I really liked. There's an indie one, but it's freaking expensive, so I'm not getting that yet. So what I've started to do, obviously started to create one for myself. So this might end up in the Muse category. I don't know. We're gonna see what we're gonna get for next year. So, but I do feel like this is something, I kind of feel like this could be a foundational deck, and I'm eyeing the Oracle as well, but so far Book Depository doesn't discount it, that one. It's not on sale ever, and I'm just waiting for it to be on sale, to be honest, because I kind of want that deck, but I'm looking for a deal because of certain things. So yeah, which is good, I have enough decks to play with for next year, so I'm not complaining or anything like that. Look at that Queen of Wands. I love the Queen of Wands. Oh, isn't she beautiful? Yes, she is. Yeah, I don't like necessarily this one for the box, but I know I'm not alone with that. But yeah, this is the Mystical Moments tarot, and this is going to be, I think, a familiar face in the village for next year. We will see. But yeah, this was my village for kind of sound funny for 2022. Give me some other ones so I can make a picture for the thumbnail. But yeah, I don't know, I think the tag is really, really interesting, so please do let me know if you made a reply, because then I can go on and watch it. You can even link your video if you have time to do that. It's probably not gonna show up immediately because I have to approve, comments with links, but if you include it, then other people can see it as well, and it's easier to find. I'm always happy to, show off other people's videos as well. You know me, I like supporting everybody, and I'm curious about your village as well. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope this was interesting. I mean, it was interesting for me to make, so I hope it was interesting to watch. And thank you so much for being here, and have a lovely day. See you in the next one. Bye.